Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I leave a shop and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago, although the sun has gone away and we've got a kind of light cloud cover now, so it's still pleasant weather-wise, but it looks like we could get a little precipitation maybe. Although I will say a low cloud cover does keep the temperature up a little bit, weirdly enough. So I'm walking home from my stroll around town, my visit to the library and sundry places. Stopped into my board game shop where I oogled some of the things they had there. They had a copy of Bargain Basement Bathysphere, which looked really swell. It was only $25 too, which I was a little tempted by, but I don't need that right now, and particularly because I did download the print and play version of it back in the day, and yeah, so why not just print my own? That's what I ask you. Okay, so this is the second half of the holiday gaming extravaganza. If somehow you missed the first half, which it seems weird that you might drop into a podcast in number 497, I think, to an episode that's titled Part 2, but welcome if you did. As you remember in the first half, I talked about the games that we played on Christmas Eve at my in-laws' place as part of our Christmas celebration. And today, right now, we're going to talk about the games that we played on Christmas Day. So Christmas Day saw a delightful infusion of games into our collection. We have a family tradition in which the Christmas game master, a mysterious and shadowy figure, sneaks into our house at night and leaves games for each member of the family who likes games. My father-in-law doesn't get a game because he wouldn't really care to have one, but my mother-in-law gets one when we're at her house, and each of us get one. So that's a thing that we do. I mentioned, so we managed to play three of the Christmas games that came in this year, and one other game as well. So I thought I'd talk about those a little bit. First off, we played a cooperative game that my mother-in-law received called Rear Window. Rear Window was a well-reviewed game from Prospero Hall that got a positive review on the Secret Cabal Gaming podcast and a couple other places as well. If you haven't played it, it is in fact a licensed property based on the Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window, which you wouldn't think is a hot property for board game development, but Prospero Hall made it work. The general idea is that you are L.B. Jeffries, the character from the movie, and you are stuck in your apartment looking out the window along with a couple of your friends, a police detective, your girlfriend, and I think like another friend. So the players in the game represent those four people, and each of them gets a special power that they get to use one time. And then the fifth player, because it plays up to 5, is the storyteller, or the director, it's called. In the game, you have sort of depictions of Alfred Hitchcock, and you are depicted as the director of the story, and your job is to make the story happen. And so here's what happens. You have 4 windows, and in those 4 windows, you're going to put scenes. There are 2 windows in each apartment, and so you're going to put 2 scenes in each apartment each round. So you have 8, you're putting out 8 scenes per round. And your goal is to convey to the people who are playing the things that are going on in those apartments. And here are your possibilities. There are something like 12 different characters, or 8? There are 8 different characters, and there are like 20 different possible things that are happening. There's 21. Now, when you play, the players pick out 12 of the things that could be happening, shuffle them up, and they put them, and they give the director that stack of 12 things that could be happening, as well as one tile that says murder. And then as the director, you shuffle these stacks up face down, and you deploy 4 of them onto your little answer key. Now, most of the time, if you know your stats, you will not have a tile that says murderer. But every now and again, you will have one. In like a different game, you might have one. But most games, you're not going to have that because it's only 1 in 12 or 1 in 13 that says murderer. What you're going to do is spread these out and assign a person to each apartment to go with the activity that is being depicted. So it might say the photographer. It might say the, what's another one? The writer, that sort of thing. There are also some more advanced ones that you can use, which we did not use. They don't recommend it on your first play. And the advanced ones say like in a relationship with, and so then you assign 2 people to that apartment instead of 1 because there's 2 people. So you have these different characters and you assign them to different apartments and you give them an identity. Then the game begins. You draw, as the director, you draw 8 cards. And on the cards, there are a variety of scenes depicted. There are some that don't have any people in them at all. There are some that have people sort of highlighted in silhouette, and then some that actually depict the characters themselves. And they're doing a wide variety of different activities. There's a wide variety of different props in these different scenes. And so then what you have to do is pick out these 8 cards. You have to decide which 8 slots are getting the cards that you have. And your goal is to help give the clues to the other players about who is in which apartment and what they're doing. Now the tricky part is that a lot of the cards have multiple things. So like if one of them is a writer and one of them is an athlete, you might have a card that depicts both a typewriter and a baseball bat. So if you put that in where the writer is, people might think it's the writer. If you put it in where the base athlete is, they might think it's the athlete. The tricky part of the game is that you only get the 8 cards and you get 3 little tokens that allow you to discard any number of cards from your hand and draw back up that many, but you only get to do that 3 times out of the 4 rounds. And you are stuck with what you get. It's not easy to switch, and sometimes you'll get cards that just don't work, or even worse, counteract what you're trying to get. So the game does give you one other out aside from letting you switch those cards with the tokens. It also lets you place 2 cards face down in any given round, and those look like the blinds are drawn. Now, the players do have abilities that let them look under the face down cards, but they have to do that with a grain of salt to say like, are these face down but relevant? Or are they face down because he didn't want us to see them? So that's what's going on. And then in the first round, you put down 8 of these cards and then they guess. They put down 4 people and 4 activities. And you tell them how many of the 8 tokens they put down are correct. Then you get a second round, you do it again, third round, you do it again, fourth round, you do it again. If at any point they've guessed all 8 correctly, the group wins. It's a collaborative win. In that way, it feels a lot like Mysterium. However, if you draw the murderer tile, then the game changes and you are no longer going against the players. You're no longer working with the players. You're mostly working with the players, but a little bit working against them. The way that works is that at the end of the game, you win if they get 7 of the 8 tokens or 6 of the 8 tokens, but not the murderer. And the players win if they get 7 or 8 correct. And 7 would be at least the person, 8 would include the murder accusation. That's the alternate win condition. So the director and the players can still both win even if there was a murderer, if everybody just gets 7 of the 8 right. Rear Window was a pretty interesting experience. Like I said, it reminded me of Mysterium. It's a little bit lighter than Mysterium, a little shorter too, placed in under an hour. It really buys into the theme. So if you have no interest in a kind of 1950s aesthetic or 1960s aesthetic based on Hitchcock's Rear Window, this is not going to do much for you. But honestly, it fits really well, and I thought it was pretty fun. It's very light, but a nice little amusement, something to play every few months, I think would be a good time. So that is Rear Window from Prospero Hall. All right, the next game I want to talk about is a tiny little set collection game called Holly Jolly. In Holly Jolly, you and the other players are collecting ornaments and presents and stockings to try to get the most points. You do this by decorating the Christmas tree and taking these ornaments, presents, and stockings. The game has a really clever mechanism. You have this little tree of 3 cards in the middle, and the cards have lights and tinsel on the cards, lights or tinsel, and then a number. So it'll have like lights and a 4, or tinsel and a 2, or whatever. And on your turn, you're gonna have some cards in hand. You're gonna play one of your lights or tinsel cards onto top of one of the 3 lights or tinsel cards. And then you look at the current tableau after you've covered one up, add up the numbers of the type you played, and that determines which ornament you take. So like if you have, let's say that displayed is a 3 tinsel, a 3 light, and a 5 light. And you have a 2 light. Well, if you cover the 5 light, there's now a 3 tinsel, a 3 light, and a 2 light, because you covered the 5. So now the total is 5. So then you can take an ornament that has the number 5 on it. If there are no ornaments with the number 5 on it, then instead you take a present from the left side of the tree, which is for when you have a total from 0 to 5, but there's no ornament, then you take a present from the left side of the tree. If the total is above 5, you take a present from the right side of the tree. It's a relatively simple game with interesting tactics. There's enough choices in the playing of the cards and the taking of the gifts that you generally have some control, but sometimes you are locked into doing a particular thing or kept away from doing the thing you want to more often, which makes for interesting choices. It's also very hard to set yourself up to get what you want because the other players get to intervene and mess with the triangle before you get back to it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like many good set collection games, the different kinds of things you take score in different ways. So snowflakes, you want to have a whole bunch of snowflakes and then they all score based on how many you have. Presents, there's a certain group of presents where if you have one of each, you score the most points, but 2 of the same will score each the bottom for that set, and so on. It's a fairly standard sort of matrix of different scoring possibilities, but all themed around Christmas. This from Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchbeck. I really like this one. It is an excellent little set collection game that I think we will play once or twice a year in December. I don't imagine it being a game we're going to get out a lot outside of the holiday season, but that's okay. At this point, we have enough games. We could just have a game we play once or twice a year during the holiday season. That's Holly Jolly from 25th Century Games, as I recall. All right, the third game I want to talk about is one I did not acquire, but in fact borrowed from XYZ Game Labs, the XYZ Game Labs game library, to be precise. And this is Atlantis Rising. Atlantis Rising is the newest game is one of the games from Elf Creek Games. It is in fact the 2nd edition. And it's got these beautiful components, really nice player boards, lovely pieces that you lay out in a grid on the board. All of the resources are sort of fancy pants resources, little gold nuggets and little silver bars. You have a variety of different meeples. Each one has a customized leader token or a little wooden leader token, and then individual worker tokens that are not customized, although custom color. Atlantis Rising is a cooperative game, so you are working with a group of other leaders to keep Atlantis from sinking. Like Pandemic or other games of that ilk, you are trying to stop an oncoming, escalating problem. And there are things you can do to slow down or stop or even reverse those problems. But that comes at an opportunity cost because your main goal is to acquire enough resources to complete 9 objectives and then the final objective. And the 9 objectives, we played with the base ones that come with the game, but there are a variety of different ones you could get. So if you don't like the first round or, there's some variety there. The other thing about the base objectives that's nice is that as you complete them, then they give you bonus actions that you can take that will help you as your island is sinking. Overall, it's a good cooperative game. Lots to choose from. There are 9 different leaders, I think, are 10. So you could play 5 people and then have a whole different set of leaders and play 5 people again, which I imagine, changes the dynamic depending on which special powers the leaders have. We did, in fact, win our first play of it, which hopefully we didn't screw up any rules. Hopefully it just means we were good at it. We talked it out. We did not have anybody do any serious quarterbacking. And we won on what was going to be the last turn. I don't know that we may have survived one more turn. I will say, though, we did have to cheat something. One, there's these event cards that we played with, and the second to last event, the last event card that came out was going to be devastating. Like, we were going to lose because of it. So we mulliganed it, we drew a different one, and that one was bad, but we were able to work around it and win the game. I'm not sure we could have survived the game with just the one that came in. So maybe we didn't win. Maybe we have to put an asterisk on that. Hardcore players would say we didn't win, but we did. We had fun. So that's Atlantis Rising from Elf Creek Games. The last new game that I got to try, like I said, this is a quadruple shot. I don't think I did say that. This is a quadruple shot. We had 4 new games come in that we played on Christmas Day. And like I said, one of them, Atlantis Rising, I did not own. The other 3 came into our collection. This third one being Santa's Workshop. This is a 2017 Rio Grande game that is a worker placement game in which you play teams of elves trying to win Santa's favor as the best team of elves, the most helpful, the most beloved by Santa. In the game, you're gathering resources, you're building presents, and then once every 3 rounds, Santa does an inspection. And the team that's finished the most presents when Santa does this inspection gets a bonus, which makes up for the fact that some of the presents are super valuable. So completing 1 or 2 really valuable ones will get you a lot of points, but then you're not going to win in the competition for most presents completed. There are 3 of those rounds. There's 3 rounds per inspection cycle and 3 inspection cycles per the game. So there's 9 together. You are able to upgrade your resource capacity. You're able to upgrade your worker capacity, like make them better. But you can't get extra workers. There is also the ability to fight for the first player built into the built into one part of it, which I think is really good. The art is pretty mediocre. It's very 2017 Rio Grande. So it was fun, but not amazing. Definitely a game we're going to keep in our collection. It was fun to play and definitely will be a fun one to play once a year or twice a year around the Christmas holiday. I'm a little bummed. After I bought it, I learned that there's a second edition from Elf Creek coming out next year, which has glorious, really nice art and slightly refined gameplay. It doesn't look like the game changed that much, actually. They did change a few things, but the art is gorgeous. I don't know if I like the game enough to buy it twice, so we may just keep the edition we have, and I'll secretly pine for the more pretty edition from Elf Creek Games. But the version we have is fun, and I'm glad to have gotten it. So that is Santa's Workshop from Rio Grande Games. Well, what games did you play over the holiday? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your holiday gaming experience. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you had a happy holiday. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.